they can strike out of the darkness without warning. There's something about that that has us hardwired to be terrified. You would never know if a shark is coming, that I think both makes them scary and allows people to exaggerate the threat associated with them. Having this perception that sharks are targeting us, of course, makes it much more acceptable to target them. I'm thrilled to talk to you about this book, and I thought, to begin, I wanted to explain a little about how I decided to really explore this territory to begin with. You know, I spent the vast majority of my reporting career here in Washington covering politicians. Many people said it was obviously a natural transition from politicians to sharks. So you saw the first recorded shark attack in history in the late 1500s comes from a Portuguese sailor who had the misfortune to fall overboard and couldn't be saved by his companions. And then if you go, you know, if you look forward, there are just many tales of sharks circling around different ships and you know, sailors either, you know, basically almost kind of like a wage dispute and like a labor dispute, that they complained that the captains couldn't care less if they ended up in the water with sharks and things like that. And you know, time and time again, they were seen as this threat, but sharks were still seen as a fairly abstract threat. And what changed in actually the United States and also a few other countries were when beachgoers started interacting with sharks. And so, for example, this is the front page from the Philadelphia Inquirer referring to a series of shark strikes off the New Jersey shore in 1916. This, in some ways, was the inspiration for the movie Jaws. Again, people had been familiar with sharks, but they did not know to what extent it could be, you know, potentially something that would come up when they went to the beach. And so when you had 4 people who were killed within a span of 12 days, that was the moment when you really saw people think of sharks as, you know, a threat at any point. You know, saying government to aid, fight to stamp out the shark horror, is that in fact Woodrow Wilson, who was president at the time and started his political career in New Jersey actually, came under attack for the fact that he did nothing to halt these shark strikes. And that's one thing that you see time and time again, that people somehow think that this is something that you could hold politicians accountable for. There is actually a couple of academics, including one at Princeton, who recently found that he in fact suffered a political penalty in New Jersey, and particularly the 3 counties that were most affected by the drop in tourism. And so it's just interesting to see how voters really did punish Woodrow Wilson and thought that, you know, there was something he could do to ensure that they could be safe at sea.